Hello and welcome to this video tutorial from computergaga.com, and in this video we are going to look at how to use for loops in Excel VBA. So this video is perfect for you guys who may be just starting out with VBA and learning this amazing skill. Now there are two types of loop in VBA, and loops are very important to know, because without knowing how to loop and how to repeat a task on an object or arrange multiple times, that will seriously limit the type of macro that you can create. So there are two types in VBA. There's the do loops and the for loops, and this video is just focusing on the for loops. If you wanted to get up to speed on Excel VBA real quick, I will have a link to our online course in the description of this video. And it's very much worth you guys checking out if you are just starting out in VBA and you want to learn fast. Okay, now we've got four amazing examples of for loops in this video. Let's start off with the first one. So in this first example, we want to loop through every row in a list. Easily one of the most common reasons to use a loop is to loop through the rows in a sheet, in a list. So I've got this small list here of numbers, and all we want to do is multiply each number by 2. We want to double them. So quite a simple task, quite a basic example, but it gets us used to looping through a list, and then you can perform whatever action or analytical process that you may want to do. So let's jump into the code. I have my developer tab open already at the top. If you do not see a developer tab, right mouse click and customize the ribbon, and then just check the developer box there and click OK. And then once you're on it, you can click the Visual Basic button or use the Alt and F11 shortcut like it suggests. And you will end up in the editor like this, and I have inserted a module already which you can see on screen. And let's get my sub procedure off the ground. This is going to be called double values, as that is what I'm doing. So I'm going to explain bits as I go here. You know, the video is about for loops, so I want to focus more on that. There will be mentions of other stuff, but I don't want to get too bogged down in that, or this video will quickly turn into, 3 hours worth of video. Now I want to create a couple of variables quickly. I'm going to have one called R, which is going to act as a row number, and I'm going to create one quickly called total rows, and that is going to be how many rows there are. So I'm going to assign to total rows how many rows are in this sheet. So as I go through here, count A function, columns 1. So by now I know how many rows are in column 1, column A of the current sheet. Here is the for loop. So we start with the word for. We then put in what the object or the range is that we're looping through. So I'm going to say for R equals 2. So R is being used to track what row we're in. That's our row number. And I want to start from row 2. I'm then going to put 2 total rows. So that's the finishing point. How many rows there are. Go from the second row until you've you've run out of rows. And we put the word next on the end. So this type of loop is called a for next loop. And you can probably see why, the exception of the word to there, they are the two keywords, the two blue words, for next. Inside there are the actions that we want to perform. I'm going to use the cells object here to refer to the cell. Now the row number is R, this little incremental row number, and the column is 1, otherwise known as column A. And what I want to do is I just want to, let me copy that, double the value in that cell. So I'm going to multiply that by 2. And that is that. So count how many rows there are for the second row to the end. So this is the cells object. It's looking at the current row, first column. Can you perform this calculation? So multiply the value by 2 and assign it to it. That is what that's doing. You may see some people on the end here put next R. So that's going to increment this number. So next time it loops round it's 3. Next time it loops round it's 4. And so on and so forth until it reaches total rows. But that R is not necessary. So sometimes you'll see people use it, sometimes you won't. It's completely up to you. There's an argument that it's more meaningful with it, but at the same time unnecessary. Now if I was to minimize that and switch back to Excel. So look, 10, 20, 8, 6, 9 on the end. And if we go into our macros, and if I run double values, it simply doubles the values. So here we go, the 10, 20, 8, and that's 16, the 9 is 18. I mentioned those numbers beforehand so you can see it did its job. It started from number 2, like we told it to, incrementing each time until it hit total rows, which here would have been 8, performing the action, which was to multiply it by 2. So in this example of another for next loop, we are going to loop through the characters of a cell. Now there are many reasons why you want to do this. It may be to extract values from a cell, delete values, or format them. In this example, I want to format only the numbers in a cell. I'm going to format anything that's numeric as red, but leave everything else alone. So bear in mind in these examples, it's about learning the loop as opposed to the action you can perform. Once you know how to loop through the rows in a list, or the sheets of a book, or the characters of a cell, you can add any tasks or any actions that you want in your situation. So it's more about the framework. Now let's jump into our Visual Basic editor, and I'm just going to tweak the previous macro. I'm going to call it format numbers now, and we're going to keep some of this stuff, but I don't want this multiply 2 bit anymore. So just like I just mentioned, it's more about learning this framework, these loops, than the actions, because a lot of this stuff I can use this again. I want to do it to the bottom of column A again, same stuff. I'm going to add next R in. Now we need another variable, so I'm going to add dim I as integer onto here, so another number, there's no R in that integer there. And then we're going to put in another for loop. So I've got this loop going through the rows. I'm going to add another one in here. Now this might start to look a bit intense, so please don't be overwhelmed if you are quite new to VBA with what we're doing right now. The more you do this stuff, it does become clearer, and it's not normally as difficult as it may seem at first. Like learning any skill, really. So for I equals 1, 2, I'm going to use a function called len that you may be familiar with. It's a text function to find the length of a string. And I'm going to use that cells object again. I'm a big fan of this cells object. R, 1. So still using R for the row number of the current cell, like A2 essentially to start with, starting from the second with column 1. The length of it, do it for every character. Do it from the first character to the last character. And I'm going to write the word next in, and I'm going to put next I. So I spoke in the previous example about not needing to do next I, next R, but when you are nesting loops like this, it probably makes a bit more sense. It's a bit easier to kind of understand and get used to. Now it's more specific rather than just writing next twice. Okay, inside there we are going to have a if statement. And we're going to use the isNumeric function if it is a number. We're going to use the mid function as well. So I warned you, it may start to look a bit more overwhelming. You may be familiar with functions like this or these exact ones. The string for mid is that cells object r1 close bracket, comma. Where's the starting position? It's I. We are using the for next loop to loop for the characters. Each character is I. Length is simply one character at a time. Close off the mid function, close off the isNumeric function. The word then goes on a if statement. Inside this if statement, we're going to change the colour to red. Cells object dot characters. Open bracket. Just check my spelling as I go here. We're going to put in start of I, so the current character we're checking. We're going to put the length colon equals, when you're using arguments, 1 close bracket dot font dot color. Remember the American spelling, equals 255. 255 is the color code for a red. So that's all that is. I'm just assigning red using a color code and index value. Font and color may speak for themselves. Characters probably does as well to a degree, but here we've got a method, I believe, of that object. But cells, the characters, the current character I, the one we're looping through with for, one character at a time, turn it red. So this bit of code, a bit of extension on what we had already with another for next loop. Now we're looping through every character of a cell for every row in a list. Pretty awesome, yes. Let's switch to Excel and let's see it in action. Here we go. There's numbers in all of them. Sometimes just one, sometimes many. Macros, format numbers. Let's run it and look at that. Only the numbers are turning red, nothing else. Our second example of a for next loop. Okay, let's now turn our attention to the for each next loop. There are two types of for loop in VBA, the for next and the for each next. Let's move on to for each next. And these loops are wonderful for working with collections. So in VBA you have collections such as how many workbooks are open, how many pivot tables in a book, how many sheets in a book, how many cells has the user selected, this kind of stuff. And this is brilliant because we don't need to know this information. Excel knows it. We just set up these for each next loops and loop through that information. And if you've not seen this before, I think you're going to be surprised just how simple this is going to be. For this example, we're going to loop through all the cells of a selected range, and for my example here, I want to convert the text in the selected range to uppercase. Something Excel can't really do very easily. Not this easily anyway. Now when you think about it, this is such a common task. Not the uppercase bit, but the idea that you highlight a range and then you do something like you turn it bold, or you delete it, or you copy it. So imagine how useful it will be to have code, to have macro that does things to all the cells of a selected range, just like those examples. Here it comes. Visual Basic, let's get our sub going. Convert to upper. We're going to convert it to uppercase. Let's create a variable, which I'm going to call R, and is going to act as a cell, as a range. And here it comes, for each R in selection. That is it. How simple is that? We still have to do the convert to upper bit, but that is how you loop through every cell in a selection. We just create a variable to work as a range or as a cell, and for each cell in selection, it's just the word selection. That's what the user has selected. I don't need to know what it is, it's just selection. Crazy simple for something that looks really impressive. Now we have to put in the actions. This is where typically the hard work will be. In this example, once you know this stuff, it's quite simple as well. R equals. So remember, R is acting as a cell, as a range. I'm going to put strconv string conversion, open the bracket of this function. The string is R and the conversion is VB uppercase. You'll be in this list. There it is. Close bracket. That is example number 3. Convert it to uppercase, this cell, for each R in selection. Keep looping round. Let's minimize this back to Excel. Select the range this time if you're testing it. If you're following this along, just type some text in the cell. That's all you've got to do. Follow what I just did there. Pause the video. Write that code. Select the range. Don't forget to select it. It's doing this for that selection. Just press the wrong button. Macros button. Run it. And it's all uppercase. So I performed an action to all the cells of the selected range. If I was going to type in something over here and put another one here, and I only selected those ones, not that one, and I ran it, it's only doing those ones. It's leaving this alone, only the selected range. Okay, last example. It's another for each next loop, and this one will loop through all the sheets in a book. Doesn't matter how many there are, every sheet. And what we're going to do on each sheet is we're going to freeze panes. So imagine you've downloaded this big workbook and you do it every morning, and there's 15 sheets in it, and you need to freeze panes on them. We are going to have a button to do it. But remember from the previous examples, it's more about learning the loop of how to do something to every sheet of a book, because you can easily change the action to, protecting the sheet, or renaming the sheet, or exporting the sheet as a PDF, anything you want. Here in this example, it's going to be freeze panes. Visual Basic. Let's start a sub. Let's call it freeze panes all. Kind of explains what it does. Going to create a variable, going to call it S, and that will act as a worksheet. So similar to what I did in the previous example with the range, dim R as range to act as a cell, we now have this working as a worksheet. And for each S in active workbook, apologies for my typing, active workbook dot worksheets next. Once again, you can put next S, but it's not necessary. So very similar to the previous video, created S to act as a worksheet for every worksheet in the collection of worksheets. We are going to activate it. So S, that's what the worksheet is. I don't have to worry about what it's called or how many there are. It's just S. That's what I've decided to call it. That is my variable. That is my alias. S to activate. I can't freeze the panes on it unless it's active. Let's activate it. Now I'm only freezing the top row here for all of them. If you needed to be a bit more intelligent with that, we can locate like the first row and freeze above it and be a bit more clever. Here I'm just saying they're all A2, so range A2. Sorry, they're all top rows, so I'm going to select range A2. Remember, you select the cell underneath the ones you're freezing. Range A2.select. Then active window. Active window dot freeze panes equals true. As if false would turn it off, true turns it on. That is that. Activate the sheet, select A2, freeze the panes. Next sheet, activate it, range A2, freeze the panes. So for the last time in this video, I'll minimize that. Notice that no panes are frozen on any of these sheets. Any. I'll stay on this third one. Macros, run it, and here we go. I come down to any of these and they all have their top row frozen. I have performed an action on every sheet of the active workbook. So that was the last example. I hope you found this video useful. Please check out our online course in Excel VBA. There's a link in the description of this video, and if you're looking at getting up to speed and mastering VBA in Excel, you want to check that out. Thank you for your time. Please check out some of our other videos on our YouTube channel. Check us out at computergaga.com. I would love to hear from you.